28th meeting of the Medina County Board of Developmental Disabilities to order. We'll do a roll call. Medina.
Here.
Kelly.
Here.
David.
Present.
Mark. Here. Lisa.
Here.
And Debbie.
Present.
Thank you. And Andy's here. So, okay, let's start with the education. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you. Now, let's read, we have them on our new placards. The mission statement for the Medina County Board of Developmental Disabilities. The missions of the Medina County Board of Developmental Disabilities is to promote and empower individuals with developmental disabilities to live, learn, and socialize as citizens in the community. Thank you. All right, the agenda was sent out in advance. Everyone, I hope, had time to look it over. Are there any changes, amendments, corrections to the agenda? Hearing none. Those in favor of approving the agenda for this evening, say aye.
And
Aye.
Those opposed? So moved. Next is the approval of the minutes. The minutes were sent out prior to our meeting. Hopefully everyone was able to look them over. Do I have any changes, corrections, comments regarding the minutes of the meeting last? Hearing none. Do I have a motion, or those all in favor of approving? We don't need a motion. Approving the minutes of the last month's meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So moved. Okay, moving on. Committee reports and approval. The minutes. Donated fund committee report.
You have the minutes for it,
Yes, we do.
and so I'll.
Okay.
No
We'll
further
give a
comment
formal
on that.
report. That's fine. Everyone that came in with our prior minutes, the minutes of the last meeting. Does anyone have comments regarding the donated funds? Committee report?
I will make a comment that Patty did a good job, and we had 15 applicants for that, as you can see in the, and it was challenging to come up with and they're all good. So now you gotta pick what you think is the best, and that was difficult, but we came up with an individual we're glad.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, approval of the donated fund minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So approved. Okay, old business, there is no old business. New business, there is no new business, so we're streamlining tonight.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'm wondering that under old business, I wonder if we could have a standing update of where we think the federal and state government are going as far as Medicaid, Medicare. I mean, if there's one thing you hear a lot of, it's just, what do you know? And I said, well, I don't know much more than you do, and I'm getting it off social media, which is probably biased at best. I'd rather have the superintendent at least once a month, maybe give us an update of where she thinks it's going. And I understand you're active with our association and various things. And I wondered if I can kind of, until the dust settles a little bit, and maybe there's a little more peace in where these things are going, if you could just give us an update. Starting next month, it would be fine, but, cause I think you do cover a little bit, but that would be a spot. Seems to me to be in your own business.
okay. Is that possible?
I mean, I certainly can, and I can give you a little bit of what I know now, which again is not a lot. We know that the state budget, is with the Senate. It was passed through the House with the Senate. And that will have to be approved, because the state fiscal year ends June 30th. So that will be approved here shortly.
That also includes the idea of levies and rewriting
right?
excess and, you know, I don't see how we could possibly work with almost a zero carry forward type thing to keep an operation. That's just not how the levy cycle works.
Well, that, the proposal right now at the state level, and we'll see what happens is with the school boards. So what they're saying for the school boards, and this is strictly school boards at this time, but we know where that can go.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that there's a proposal that they can only have 30% carryover of their previous year's expenditures. Which would be very difficult and create a great deal of processes and meetings and, you know, the budget commission, and, you know, rolling back and then having to, you know, up the collection of that. So I know that there's a very active push right now to get that removed because it's gonna be very difficult for school boards.
Well, when they picked a piece of the school boards,
Mhm.
I think what I heard is that, in fact, what, that worked or didn't work. This is what we'll do now, not just for school boards, but for townships. And, oh, how about the DD boards? And things grow and they gain momentum.
It can.
How active should we be, or how active is our association
Our associate's very active
with the school?
with
Schools
the
association.
school associations are, yeah, it's very active, and the OECB is very active, you know, coming out and supporting that, as well as other things such as, you know, they want to remove the replacement language for levies. So what we're hearing is that it's probably gonna go through, but, you know, we're lobbying not to have that removed. Right now, the proposal is with the budget commission that the prosecutor will be removed. And, the county commissioners, president of the county commissioners will be in that spot. So then you'll have the auditor, the treasurer, and the county commissioner president. There's some talk, will that be the county commissioner's designee? I mean, that's what they're negotiating. You know, the concern with that is that the commissioners are the ones that approve or disapprove levies going to ballot in that.
I mean, the whole horizon of levies and assessments is gonna be all screwed up. I mean,
Yeah.
we're gonna be, instead of a 10-year, you're gonna have a 2-year or 3-year. Maybe I'm facetious there, but the issue is the whole operation of collecting money to operate on. It's gonna be tough.
They're looking at changing some things. Yeah. I don't think I've read anything about them limiting the amount of years changing that. I know there was talk initially, but I didn't read anything that said
No, you
you
can
could
do
Well, but it's,
do.
up to 10.
but it's a
Up to
natural,
10 years.
years gonna change. Because if you can't carry the 30% forward, you're gonna work yourself into a hole where 10 years is, you can't possibly. We go 5 years where we're on, theoretically, if it's straight line, we're on the plus side, and we go 5 years where we're in the hole. Right, that's what that surplus is for. So now we'll be 1 year positive, 1 year in the hole, and then the third year, we gotta have a levy.
Yeah, well, and remember, right now, they're only doing that to school boards.
I understand, but I look at the school, what happens to the school boards,
Right,
uh,
right,
you know, it'll happen to us.
Right.
If things go that way, if it loses, then they'll come back at it with different language and try the school boards again, or
Right.
maybe us or something.
right. No, I agree with
I just wondered if we should be more active as a board, or that's too political, which we need to be careful of. Whether we should, as board members, write letters or get our spokesperson to work us counter letter that we sign. Just not wait for something else to happen, whether we should be proactive. And things that are could obviously affect our operation. That's my way of thinking, Mr. Chairman. That's.
And what comes to mind is, I think we do have a state advocate.
Well, the Ohio Association, yeah, we have that, yes,
that monitors and keeps it.
and lobbies and,
Right, lobbies, and if there's something the individual boards can do, I would expect some direction from them.
Would they give us direction, do you think? Are the boards to write individual letters?
yes.
I'm just surprised we haven't had that. Other than they say, well, it's the schools, it's not us. Well,
But we're lobbying about a lot of stuff, so they're lobbying, and not only are they lobbying as the Ohio Association of County Boards, but they have made, partnerships. And so really working together with the Ohio, Provider Resource Association. Ohio Health Association, and so they locking that group together, so you have more power in numbers.
well, I just,
But if you remember the DSP crisis, you know, we put out a lot of stuff and trying to get parents, you know, to write and all that, so,
Yeah.
yeah,
we need to consider the same thing when the time is right.
right.
Don't we have an OACB session, training session, Shannon, coming up? Is that not related?
May 5th.
Would that be an opportunity to ask their recommendation on, not necessarily to take action, but to how to ensure we're staying apprised? Like, I do find their emails.
It's a role
to
of
be
the board
helpful.
training, so to ask
Yeah.
what your role would be in this, sure.
Yeah,
Maybe that would be an
Yeah.
opportunity.
ensure that we're being
catch.
proactive, and that's a good point.
And can I just piggyback off of Dave's comments real quick? I often get concerned when I see emergency levies come through more so for the school systems that are within our district. So for example, Highland right now has an emergency levy on the board. So if that were to fail, you know, what potentially could be that impact for funding for special needs, and where is it going to fall more to the board would be something that, you know, is on my radar screen. Do we know how many school systems within our district are putting emergency levies out there because they're anticipating a cut? So that would be one thing. And then as we look at these school systems that are looking at emergency levies and everybody's, you know, trying the tax, you know, fast forward, right now we might be 5 years out, but I got to tell you, you know, 4 years out from now, people will be maybe kind of questioning, you know, if they want to pass the next levy for us. So just maybe having a really good idea of what's going on in some of these areas. So it's on our radar screen so we can be strategic in how we approach it. Just something for us to think about it at a board level. I do not like that big old visual of me right there. That is bleh. So kind of what Dave's saying, but through a different lens. Thoughts on that? Anybody commenting on it back? I have a delay. Yeah, I have a little bit of a delay. So that yes, no, do people agree with that comment? How is everybody thinking about that?
I would say that, as far as school levies, I think right now in the state of Ohio, it's property tax, property tax, property tax. That is the focus of the state legislation, and, eliminating property tax somehow. That's, they've been very clear about that. So, any type of levy that is being put up to the voters, we need to be aware of, and how that impacts us when it comes time for us to go on as far as like the school districts and how that impacts us as a board, if their levies pass or not. We're separate, but it's perception of what the community will support and tolerate. So those are important things for us to keep in mind,
Yeah,
how
exactly.
things are progressing. Because,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
exactly
we,
about it.
Yeah.
All right. Nothing else on that. Let's move on to the reports, superintendent's report.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and get started here. Just here real quick. I want to remind, before I forget, because I will, Shannon asked me to remind the Ethics Committee at our next board meeting in May. Ethics Committee is going to meet ahead of time at 4:30. And that's Andy, Debbie, and Lisa are on that committee. So just, and Shannon will send a reminder, but just putting it out there to you. SSA update I thought was of interest is that our SSA department completed the 3-part training series with the Hope Recovery Center. And, you know, working with people, families that struggle with addiction and just kind of giving more tools for SSAs when they're out there and these, you know, real life. So it was a very well attended and a great training for that. April is Autism Acceptance Month. Promoting and putting a lot of articles out there, which you've seen. So that's important. I will again highlight that it's acceptance, not awareness, because we're beyond awareness. It's about accepting. The standout, and I know we're gonna have some more stuff on the standout champion award recipients. Are Melanie Caston Kraus, Nicole Maureen, am I saying that correctly? Good, I got that. And Trent Human. So you will be hearing and seeing more stuff about that, but we wanted to kind of put that out. Ice cream social's coming. So it's the 27th of June, that Thursday, the 27th of June from 6 to 8 in Public Square. If there's rain, it will be here, so put that on your schedules.
I thought that was a Friday, I put it on my calendar.
Thursday.
It's the 26th.
Oh, 26th?
The Thursday.
Oh, okay. Oh, good.
I was gonna ask why it's Friday this year.
Yeah, good catch. We'll amend that. I'll move it. Thank you. Yeah, so it's the 26th. It's a Thursday. So, you know, start. Loosen, a little extra pumping on the iron.
Then you guys are served the ice cream, is that how it works?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, be there, come ready to scoop.
okay, so what time do you need us there?
6 o'clock, little before 6, 5:45.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that works.
That's what I have on my calendar from
I
last
think
year.
that's a good one.
Stacy, what date
Um,
is that, the ice cream social?
It's June 26th. It's a Thursday from 6 to 8 PM
Okay.
at Medina Public Square. It's a great event. It's a lot of fun.
No, we do accept this. Old board members can still scoop.
Absolutely.
I've already got a big old bowl picked out to bring. Those little paper bowls.
School age graduation is coming on May 23rd at 9:30. And if we'd like to have, if board members are available to be part of that. So if you are able to attend, please let Shannon know.
Can you say that date again?
Yep, it's May 23rd and it's at 9:30.
Is that the preschool?
That is our,
Preschool.
that's right, yeah, this is just our regular graduation, so we have 2 graduates this year. So yes, it's always nice to have board members, so if you are available, please let Shannon know. Okay,
I've been before and the parents do appreciate it.
yeah,
It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Fun to see.
How long does it typically go for?
Maybe, I mean. Unless you want to stay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the first year board members that attend have to give a 20-minute speech.
Oh, I will be wearing my mask that day.
Sorry, did you say 9 or 9:30?
9:30.
9:30.
Yep. Community partnerships, so the DSPU partnership, this is, the second year, and that's the partnership with the Career Center. We had 6 students that graduated with it. Very nice, lunch, reception, acknowledgement. They got opportunities to do some internships, not only here with Windfall School, but they were with Medina Creative and also AC Passage. So they had opportunity to get out and like, what does it mean to be a DSP and to work with all ages of people with developmental disabilities? And they are certified, so they can now be an independent provider if they so choose. So great class, a lot of great energy. So we're going to do it again next year. So we're very excited about that. You can take a look at our trainings that we've had over this past month or so. And a variety of trainings, the CIT training, DD awareness, I wanted to point out. Jenny presented, and that was working with law enforcement. They're trying to give some insight with new law enforcement officers about, what do you do? Or working with a family or someone. So, but yeah, a variety of trainings. We have more coming up. Take a look at those. I want to give a shout out to Adina. As part of our People Together. In March, she was out at Buckeye and gave a presentation to the students. That's always a well-received presentation, for quite a few years. Provider support, DSP Spotlight. Nina McMillan was recognized for the April DSP Spotlight. Nina has been serving individuals as a DSP for Midwest Medina location for 20 years. She started in the field working with special education students at the Copley Fairlawn schools. She was asked, has there ever been anyone that has stood out to as a mentor in the field? And she said, this field is packed with people that are passionate about helping individuals with developmental disabilities. There are so many SSAs, behavior specialists, as well as other DSPs that have helped me. We all understand that we have to work together to help our individuals succeed and accomplish their goals. So really want to say a big shout out. Thank you to Nina for all her work and dedication. Speaking of DSPs, we did appreciation, our spring appreciation for DSPs. We gave out 741 DSP treat bags that were delivered to 16 participating provider agencies in Medina County. Each of those contained grandma's chocolate brownie cookies, a little sugar, thank you card, and a scratch out for a chance to win a prize. So again, it's something little, but people appreciate it. We appreciate what they do, and it can be a challenging, although rewarding job. So we like to recognize that. And of course, you have all of our Special Olympics. There's tons of Special Olympics, as always, looking. Any questions about that? Sure.
Do our SSAs get involved when we're talking about addiction? When we find a family member, other than our consumer, do we get involved or we refer them? Because the note that we deal with a family member also with addiction, that's what we do.
Well, we're gonna give resources. I mean, we're not
Trying to counsel.
no, we're not trying to counsel. We're just,
Directing them to the right.
if people have some, here are some other resources if you're, yeah, right. Yeah,
We
that's
had
not gonna
our
be
first-
us.
We had our first leadership academy here. How many did we have?
4 in our first leadership academy.
We have 4 in every leadership.
Yeah.
So yes, there are 4 in leadership.
Are you bragging or complaining? I'm just talking. You just clarify. Just clarify.
Yeah, how many slots we have, so.
Right, that's all right. That's by design.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, very good. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Anything else regarding the superintendent's report? Okay, Carrie, moving on financial reports.
All right, so we're reviewing the revenue for March. This is on page 17 of the board packet. We received our Title 20 grant payments. That's federal grants and our school lunch program payment. Under state grants, that would be for the rental assistance program and also received the reduced lunch state funding. Donations for March, we received from Mr. Subcheck, again this year for $1,200 for the camper ships. We're grateful to that, to put towards camper ship payments that, the board pays for individuals. No real big issues for revenue for this month. Any questions specifically revenue? All right, we'll move on to expenditures on page 18 of the board packet. Repairs, we had an interior door repair, which was actually a prior year expense. Travel training, that account, we had about $4,800 in operating travel and $882 of training expenses in that account. Contract services, we included this in March, we made our transfer to Neon for the supported living program. So we transferred $118,500 to Neon for supported living, and that is locally funded residential services. We also transferred our FSS funding to Neon, and that was for $90,400. And then there's about $12,000 prior year expenses under contract services. Special projects includes provider support programs. It's a success coach, the DSPU internship. And we had 3 days for the Momentum Refresh contract, the Universal Changing Table, and that was for the ice cream festival event on the square, or the ice festival event on the square.
Any questions? I do have one.
Mhm.
Could this be put in landscape? This is getting,
That's how it came in, that must have came in the PDF, because it is sent it, so.
Yeah, it
just
is
have-
in landscape, I'll try to put it in landscape, but the software kind of.
okay. These are my reading glasses.
Right.
I do have a quick question, just as a new board member. When we say supported living and then also Neon, can you maybe provide a little bit of context in who Neon is?
So Neon is a council of government. It's the COG that we are able to send money over there, and they also provide certain services on behalf of the board. So we have a contract with them to administer the provider contracts for the supported living program. And then we also use them for provider compliance reviews, QARNs, quality assurance for the nurse, the medication administration, backup MUI services. So Neon provides some of those services for us. So with supported living and FSS, they send the payments out to either providers or families on our behalf. So we transfer the expense budget for those two areas to them to process those payments for us.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on.
And we did have match for the 5 DC residents on expenditures. And other than that, I don't have any issues or concerns for expenditures for March. Move on to the cash balance report on page 19 of the board packet. Cash balance for the month of March is $34.1 million. This is back in last month we had for February, we had that adjustment with the county auditor. So we're back in line with those funds for the month of March. Then the monthly cash flow on page 20. We used $1.1 million of the fund balance for the month of March. Year to date, we have used $4.9 million of the fund balance. We are projecting an estimated year-end fund balance usage of $500,000 at year end. I did receive notification from the auditor's office that we will receive our first half tax payments we have in April. We did receive that. So I will report on that next month.
Gary, before you move on.
Yeah.
When you look at your cash balances at the end of the month, and you look at the residential fund held by Neon, current year versus prior year, that's pretty dramatic.
So the difference, and that's gonna be the timing of when we send that transfer to them. So last year, we probably sent it in February as opposed to March. And this year we sent it in March as opposed to February. So it's just the timing of when we make that transfer as to the difference on the cash balance statement here.
Okay, so this is just to look at the month.
Yes, this is
Not-
comparing to last year for the same month, for the same time period. So prior year is through March of 2024.
Okay, because and I said page 28, it just went to page 20, I couldn't find it. We said down our expense report, we expensed 209,000.
On the monthly cash flow. Oh, you mean expense 20?
Yeah.
Oh, we sent a transfer total over there to them. But it didn't hit until it hit earlier last year than it did this year.
Okay, so they're just passing in the night that we're somewhere, all right,
Yes. It's just the timing of when the transfer was made.
thank you.
Any questions on the voucher report? This is pages 21 through 29 in the board packet.
Hearing none. Okay, resolution.
Yes, the administration respectfully requests board approval for resolution 1225, the acceptance of financial statements for the month of March 2025.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So,
Do I have a second?
second,
Okay, motion and a second. Discussion. Any further comments, questions, concern? Hearing none. Okay. Lisa,
Yes.
Mark,
yes.
David,
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Adina.
Yeah.
And the chair votes yes, so moved.
I'm a yes too. It's okay.
We have some quarterly reports here, and you will notice we have been looking at our reports and trying to find better ways to present it, and some feedback that we've received from you. So we're going to go through these. They're not set in stone, and we certainly can make adjustments if needed. So take a look at this. So we've got our board stats, which is similar. We did a few adjustments on there. We put our staff statistics, our staffing statistics on there. Instead of having the page where we've got each position listed and what was approved, what's filled, trying to condense it a little bit so you can look and see, how many approved staff do we have? And then you can see our current openings. And you'll see down below, positions affected this month will tell you this month we have an intervention specialist. For the month of March, we had an intervention specialist position open. So trying to condense it so it makes more sense and easy for you and the public to kind of take a look at. Nothing really stands out. We've got we condensed our early intervention numbers there so you can see the referrals, how many are enrolled, and then you also have how many students are enrolled in the school, and then new individuals that are found eligible, so you can kind of have an idea each month of, people that are going through our eligibility process, and then the total number of individuals that are assigned to either an SSA or an INR SSA. Trying to break that down and make it a little more concise.
And at the top, just to confirm, that's eligible for board services.
Yes, eligible for board services. So you may be found eligible, but you might be receiving services, not have a need at this time, but you are eligible for services.
How often do we review that? It looked like about 299 difference between eligible and assigned eligible. Is that a yearly review? Are they or aren't they? Do they qualify? Don't they qualify?
There are, as far as eligibility, there are benchmarks. For instance, correct me if I'm wrong, at age 3, there's a benchmark. Then we go to 16.6, and then 16, and then 22.
Right, that's eligibility. So
Those are the benchmarks where we will look at eligibility for that individual
we
person
have 1,554.
that are currently have been
Currently
determined eligible.
They go down the statistic down below and we have 1,282
Yes,
that are eligible and receiving.
they're assigned to an SSA or an INR.
INR. So we have 300 there.
You're talking the difference.
Where is
Which
it?
could be the early intervention, because early intervention does not get assigned an SSA.
Some of those may be in IPS also.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey,
Yeah.
Stacy? This is one of the topics that we said we were gonna push into the board discussion
Yes.
next month in terms of a reportable dashboard. We were gonna actually have a conversation about what statistics we thought, because we can measure
Yes.
ourselves to death and we don't wanna do that, right? We wanna just agree on what those key metrics are. So I'm hoping we're not looking to finalize anything today and that we're actually gonna have that discussion next month.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
great.
This is just something that we're working with and putting out there and, you know, everything is subject to change, so. But it's good food for thought.
For sure, thank you.
Then you have our quarterly contract reports. So you can see the different contracts we have. Oh, yes, we have our, in there, you'll see we have our renewal of our lease with the Midwest for the workshop floor. And that will go through the end of May 12th, 2028. You got a 3-year lease with them.
And they use the space out there for their own program.
Yeah.
Are they building a new? Is Midwest building not a new building?
I haven't heard, you guys haven't heard either, have not heard.
So, cause when I go down 18th, I see like Midwest, I'm like, is that our Midwest or is that?
No, that's not our Midwest. That's a,
Oh, okay.
that's a vehicle equipment.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It's equipment supply. They're building a building there. Yes,
Okay,
you're right.
okay, so
It's not
okay.
Midwest.
Different Midwest. Good job, Dave.
That was.
You can see our provider quarterly report. We're trying something a little different, you can see. So take a look at that, and then we can discuss that at our meeting when we're gonna talk about reports and numbers. But a different look at, Yeah.
We changed it.
yeah,
So we took the provider report that we were reporting on before, which was jumped for adult services and transportation and employment. We felt it would be more appropriate to report to the board all providers serving individuals, number of providers that they serve for all funding sources, regardless of waiver or lever, because the importance of the number is more the number of providers and who's being served, and it is specific to just the day service and NMT. That was provided before as we were transitioning out of providing services. So also in looking at the data and information, this information is not going to change quarterly. So we felt that switching this to a biannual report, initially reporting in January for prior year counts, and then in July for current year counts. So we broke out the top left graph is the number of providers, whether they're agency or independents, to show that 68% of our providers in Medina County serve, are independent providers. And then we had the graph to the right that shows how many individuals are served by those provider types. So it also shows that even though 68% of our providers are independents, they provide services to 28% of the individuals. This information will not change very much from year to year, which is why we suggest switching it to a biannual report. Then at the bottom, we felt it was good to represent for those agency providers serving greater than 10 individuals, where do they fall with their agency count? So that's what's listed at the bottom in order of individuals served. And again, this is for all services and it is for all funding sources. So whether it's locally funded or whether it's waiver funded.
The number in green on the bottom,
Yes.
that's the
count of people served.
Number of individuals served.
Correct,
Across all services.
correct,
Yes, across all services.
correct.
If an individual, this is kind of a nerdy question, so if we don't know the answer to this. But if an agency provides a number of different kinds of services and an individual receives 2 or 3 different services, do we count them once or do we count them twice?
I did I always look at a duplicate based on the individual resident number and the provider. So if they provide more than one service by a provider, I only count them once.
A little below halfway down the lower chart, Medina County Board of DD,
Mhm.
providing services indirect or,
That is the Medina County Public Transit contract.
okay,
So we are still the provider of record for that contract.
all right,
So we have 16 individuals. Some are on waivers and some are locally funded.
all right.
Carrie, I like how you display this. It's very easy to understand. Do we have the ability, and again, we can also, drop this into next month's meeting, but do we have the ability, and maybe this is not a good question for Carrie because I know, but do we have the ability to know how many families are actually looking for providers? I know we have that great RFP system, but do we track that, like families who are actually looking for providers that have open needs? Again, I don't know, Carrie, if you're the right person to ask that to, so I'm just putting that out there.
Well, I think for the most part, it's through the RFP process. And so like if they haven't found a provider, our SSAs are aware of that. But I think that's really where those numbers lie, is through that process when they're searching for providers.
So we have the ability to have visibility to families who are looking or have an open need for a provider. Is that what you're saying?
Visibility in what way?
If we have families that have an open need and are searching for a provider, do we have visibility to that? So we have 50 families that still have an open need for a provider. Do we have visibility to that type of number?
I mean, that's the postings that would be on the RFP. So if there's 10 individuals looking for a HVC provider, then that would be what's listed there.
So I haven't been in that system. So is it aggregated for your team to know this many families within our county have the needs for a provider? Stacy, you understand what I'm asking?
So we know who is looking and has a need. Yes. Because
Okay.
we're monitoring that system and the SSAs, they're going to be actively working with that. So we do know.
Are you asking if they can add it to your report so we can see that number here?
Well, yeah, so I know that next month we're going to spend a lot of time on what that dashboard should look like, but I think an important, not metric, but having a sense of knowing how many families are still looking for help, I think is a valuable number to have visibility to, right? Because
And that's gonna be a point in time too, because, there's that ebb and flow. You may,
Yeah.
tomorrow you may need somebody and it may be for this or that and it resolves
100%.
quickly. Yeah.
We might decide quarterly, we want to take a look at this, right? And where is it trending? Because we are continuing to, educate and onboard independent providers or DSPs. So how do those numbers align?
Okay.
Or Mr. President, would you mind if I ask or made a statement?
Oh.
May not just be numbers of families, it may be hours, because a family may have 2 hours of service and be looking for another 28. So you're not looking at just numbers of families, you're looking at hours of
That's a
need.
great point. Yeah, that's a great point too, right? What the overall need is. And like, that's going to be really hard to aggregate. I understand that, but I'm just trying to figure out directionally, do we have an understanding of what the needs are out there? That's all. But I think that's a great point. If it's 2 hours versus 20 hours, right?
Well, and I wonder too, I guess something that gives me pause with that, and again, probably a topic for a future conversation.
Yeah.
Is I wonder whether that's really, it is an unmet need, but does that necessarily correlate to a lack of availability of services? Meaning, has an individual just not found the glass slipper, if you will? I mean,
What works for them?
right, exactly. And I guess I just, maybe, we could talk about in the future what we're trying to understand.
Yeah.
From that number, because I think if we have 15 people, I don't have any idea what the number is, people that are looking for services, I don't know that it necessarily correlates to a lack of availability other than they haven't found specifically what they are seeking, like their individual needs are not met. And I say that as a selective parent. I mean, just because there is a need doesn't mean there aren't available providers.
Willing and able providers.
Yeah, I
Yes.
guess I want to understand what we're trying to discern by arriving at that number.
That's good. That's a good topic.
Well, and each
That's a
provider
really good
has
point.
their own. And they may not share with us. I mean, you look at them and they've got a waiting list of 15 people or 20.
That's
that
true,
We don't know,
right,
or we may or may not know, and we may or may not know the whole,
right.
all of 20.
And somebody may be thinking about moving, even if they have services, that's a really.
Oh, yeah, that is a moving target. No
Yeah.
question about
Yeah.
that.
But I think just making sure we understood
Yeah.
what we wanted to ascertain by arriving at that number would be helpful.
Yeah.
I think that's
No.
right, Lisa.
Good. Good points. Okay. The fiscal indicators, Karen, do you want to talk about how we adjust?
Yes, so we looked at fiscal indicator reports, and again, when Stacy mentioned earlier that we're kind of like validate or report them just a little differently. On the fiscal indicators report, page 36 of the board packet, the top half again is still the expenses and revenue for the agency and the year-to-date breakdown for that. The bottom left for service-related costs, we added the local funding piece to this. Previously, we only reported on what was paid out to providers and what our estimated local MAC responsibilities on that. We felt that it was important to show we're funding local people, not just the waiver match. So we included that this year for the quarter. And then, and there's a difference between the local funding. I use service dates based on the current quarter because it's our expenditures that we make out. So I know them for the current quarter. For the waiver services, we do the prior year quarter because providers haven't, maybe not have billed for everything for that quarter. So if we would run this quarterly report using January through March of 25, all providers are not going to have their billing in yet. So we would not be able to give you a good number there. So they are a difference that was purposeful in the reporting of those two quarters. The waiver count, we streamlined that a little bit as far as the number of waivers to date, how many we've added and removed for total waivers as a whole. And then we broke down at the bottom the type of waiver, and then also listed the cost caps per waiver in that, IO specifically has essentially no cost caps to that. So we just kind of revamped the way the waiver section looked here. Yeah, okay, yeah. So just want to explain the differences there as far as what we did with the fiscal indicator report.
Any questions on the format, since we did, and the numbers, if anything specific?
That's good. Question to you, Carrie. We want our individuals to apply for Medicare, Medicaid rather. And they're not eligible, we pick up the cost. But we need them to apply.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some that have not applied. They don't want to, or whatever reason.
Sure.
Are we on top of that where we have an understanding between the individual and ourselves and you've got 6 months to make an effort?
So the board has a service funding policy in place. And it talks about applying for Medicaid and doing so, and what we will do as far as our funding support goes for local funding.
Right.
So we have a dollar amount that says, okay, if your services, reach up to that local funding cap, then you're gonna apply for a waiver. If you refuse to apply for a waiver, then our service funding policy will kick in and that they may only be limited to the service funding cap as far as the services that they're gonna get, or they may choose to pay for extra services. If they apply for Medicaid and they're not eligible, if they're denied for reasons, other reasons, then we forego the cap, the local funding cap and pay for their services. So there's different scenarios and we do work with the individuals on their specific scenario situations.
That's
Correct.
I know we talked about that years ago.
Yes, that was a long answer to
Yeah,
your
well, that's
question.
you know, the things.
Yes.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Community engagement, you have the information in there, as always, very good. And at that, it is open forum. This. Board maintains discretion to hold an open forum. That's our discretion. The board may not elect to address public comments during the open forum. However, the board shall provide acknowledgement and response will be provided within a reasonable time frame. Interpretation of that is, we're not obligated to respond in any way, shape, or form, individually or collectively, to a comment. And because of that, we will hear open forums. And again, I would recommend, other than questions for clarification, response or comments, be restricted to minimal, if any. Okay, with that, open forum, we will allow 5 minutes per speaker and allow a total of 9 speakers, which is a total of 45 minutes. Does anybody wish to address? Hearing none. And completing our agenda, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Question,
Sure,
ombudsman, are we due for a report? I haven't seen one in quite a while.
I have not either. Good question.
That was one of the reports that we removed because we do not report on any other providers.
We discussed that last meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
We're not doing that anymore?
Right.
It's a contract that,
Well, they're still providing a report because they have to provide it for their invoice.
we don't want to read it out loud.
We don't do it for other providers. I mean, we can certainly discuss that at our meeting to talk about
Okay,
that.
well,
I mean,
put
that's,
that on the list.
Yeah.
I was glad to see that.
yeah,
You know, there's activity there and good questions and.
we can put that on the list.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
value in knowing what people are asking.
On the list.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay. Okay, motion and second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Debbie? Okay, all opposed? Same sign? Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Have a good night.